Well, hi everyone. Today I want to discuss how to gain lean skeletal muscle most effectively. And I've organized the discussion into three sections. First, we'll address macronutrient requirements for muscle building. In section two, we'll discuss protein in a deeper dive and its important role in adding muscle. And as well, we'll cover the process known as muscle protein synthesis. And then lastly, we'll spend some time reviewing special proteins called branched chain amino acids and some other key supplements that aid with superior building of muscle. The two key ingredients for building muscle are adequate nutrition and resistance training. And with regard to resistance training, we'll call that intelligent training. So it includes all the protocols for around mobility and active recovery. But today's session is just going to focus more strictly just on nutrition. So this leads us into section one, macronutrients. Macronutrients are the nutritive components of food that the body needs for energy and to maintain its structures and systems. They include protein, carbohydrates, and fats. We'll discuss briefly each of these as they relate to building muscle. First, with protein, we are seeking 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram, which is 0.7 to 1.0 grams per pound. Generally, inactive people require less protein than active people. And this is because intense exercise, in particular resistance training, causes damage to the muscle tissue. And while it is true that protein is critical for muscle building, it is more of a muscle recovery supplement when combined with adequate calories and nutrition and resistance training. Ideally, most of our protein should be of high biological value, which is defined to mean that they contain all of the essential amino acids. Essential means the ones which can't be made by the body and must come from food. Examples of high biological value protein include lean meats, poultry, fish, and dairy, in particular yogurt and whey. By contrast, low biological value refers to a protein that lacks one or more of the essential amino acids. Examples of low biological value protein include plant-based proteins such as peas, beans, nuts, seeds, and vegetables. But this is not a problem for vegetarians. So what vegetarians are advised to do is simply to do what's called complementing, which refers to putting two proteins together in a meal to cover the various missing essential amino acids. And as well, it's advised that vegetarians strive for a 15 to 30% higher protein gram intake to compensate for the lower essential amino acids. So we'll cover more on the importance of protein in section two. Next, carbohydrates. The recommended range for muscle protein synthesis is 4 to 7 grams per kilogram, which is 1.8 to 3 grams per pound per day for resistance-trained athletes. Note, if muscle building is desired, we should seek the higher end of this range. This is because resistance training depletes muscle glycogen stores. And then third, healthy fats. Fat intake is recommended to remain in the 20 to 30% of total calories range. Be careful to not drop fat intake to be less than 15 to 20% intake, because this might increase the risk of inadequate essential fatty acids and impair the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins, and may even adversely affect hormone levels. So my go-to healthy fats would include nuts, salmon, avocado, olive oil, and eggs, just to name a few. Remember too that fat is the most energy dense of all three macros, and also it helps hard gainers achieve a calorie surplus. So that's a good reminder for folks which have a hard time gaining muscle and weight. One last pointer on fat, surplus energy from omega-3 fats may also enhance muscle gains when combined with adequate protein and calorie intake. So as you can see, there are some good strategic muscle building considerations with regard to your macros. Now let's move into section two, protein and its very important role in building our muscles. I want to start by saying that every cell in the human body contains protein. And when you ingest protein, it is digested into its amino acids, which are then released into our blood. Muscle growth is the net impact of muscle protein synthesis and muscle protein breakdown. So if you visualize or think about muscle as a wall, amino acids are the bricks, and muscle protein synthesis adds bricks, and muscle protein breakdown removes them. But don't be too concerned about muscle protein breakdown. It's largely minimized by eating. And additionally, some amount is thought to be healthy to remove muscle proteins which get damaged by things like inflammation and oxidative stress. With regard to protein, Alan Aragon advised us that for humans, our musculoskeletal system provides our body armor and is indeed the furnace for our metabolism. Additionally, he states that we need to proactively fight to keep muscle, especially as we age, to combat what he refers to as the twin serpents of physical decline, which are sarcopenia, or muscle loss, and dynapenia, which is strength loss. And this is why he supports up to a 1 gram per pound daily protein intake objective. Now let's close the protein section with a few science-based reminders. First, the protein hierarchy of most importance is total daily protein grams. Second most impactful is the even distribution of your protein. So have it upon waking since you've been without it for 7 to 8 hours. Strive for even protein, call it 20 to 40 grams per feeding versus the strategy of greater portions skewed towards later in the day. And then make sure you have some protein prior to sleep, because this is known by science to stimulate muscle protein synthesis during the overnight sleep hours. And then workout timing is pretty unimportant, and so that's the last point to make. Science has studied and determined that pre and post workout timing does not significantly influence muscle protein synthesis. Lastly, in section 3, I would like to cover the importance of a special amino acid which is central to muscle building, and it's called leucine. It is the most potent of the protein components. Leucine is an important predictor for anabolic effects. There are 20 amino acids, 9 of which are referred to as essential. They must come from food. 3 of these 9 are called branched chain amino acids, and one of these 3 is leucine. Leucine is the amino acid rock star for building muscle. It performs a number of functions such as regulating our blood glucose, producing growth hormone, but yet it's best known for its role in muscular system, muscle building, muscle recovery, preventing muscle loss, and aiding in weight control. The recommended intake for leucine is approximately 3 to 4 grams per day, according to the National Institutes for Health. I thought it would be interesting and useful to go through a list of the top leucine food sources from highest to lowest values in terms of recommended daily intake. And they are as follows. Steak provides 108% of the recommended daily intake. Tuna, 89%. Pork chops, 80. Chicken is a great leucine source that provides 73%. Salmon is right up there. It provides 58%. Believe it or not, yogurt is going to come in next at 52. And then you will find tofu, especially firm tofu, will report at 51% of our RDI. Cottage cheese is a very good one at 43%. Eggs provide a great source of leucine. So if you have 2 eggs, that's 39% of your RDI. Navy beans is a great choice in the legume family. It's going to provide 23% of your recommended daily intake. And then milk is a very good one at 12%. Others on the list, which are sources of lutein, would include seeds, avocado, soy, bacon, lentils, spirulina, and peanuts. I did want to give some honorable mention to 2 other key muscle growth supplements, namely creatine and caffeine. And we talk about these all the time. We must discuss creatine monohydrate if our goal is building muscle and strength. There is substantial evidence proving that creatine aids in adding mass, strength, and fatigue resistance. It is essential to help convert ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate, into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is our energy currency. So that's a really important part of the process to creating our energy. The recommendation is to take 5 grams of creatine monohydrate per day, and I will often just put a scoop of that powder in my morning coffee. And then last but not least, stimulants like coffee and tea will help us to combat tiredness, create attention and endurance, and increase our metabolic rate by releasing adrenaline, which leads to more ATP being metabolized. So try for less than 400 milligrams, which, try to reduce your coffee intake to less than 5 cups of coffee per day to minimize unwanted side effects such as restlessness, insomnia, and GI distress. And as we were reminded by our cardiologist, Dr. Mike Twyman, there's about a 12-hour half-life. So the caffeine will stay in our system for it'll be worth about 50% of its initial value after 12 hours. So kind of don't take your coffee too late in the day, or you might have some troubles sleeping and with insomnia. So in conclusion, keep up your progressive overload efforts and intelligent training with your weights. Pay attention to your macronutrient strategies, and remember the important role that protein plays. And we talk about it all the time, but it's very important in the pursuit of muscle building. And then consider focusing some more on your leucine content for optimal anabolic response. I always like to close with a quote, and so I found a great one from Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger, which, everyone knows his name. He's considered among the most important figures in the history of bodybuilding, and his personal records, just to let you know, include squatting at 545 pounds, bench press 520 pounds, and deadlifting 683 pounds. And he's famously quoted as saying, "Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength." So I hope you find that inspiring. And thank you very much for listening. And I appreciate your time very much.